So sorry for the delay. We're supposed to begin at 2, but we had some kind of technical issues. So sorry, and happy Sunday to you guys. Sorry we couldn't have the session yesterday as well. I know today's Sunday and some people might have had church. So thanks for being here, and sorry for the delay. All right, I'll get to it. Today's topic is it's quite simple, but it's going to be very short. Hopefully it's a very simple topic, but I think it's quite interesting. And I prepared some materials. I prepared like a presentation I can walk you through, and I prepared some kind of template that I could share with you. All right, so in a moment I'll share my screen and we can begin. Come on. All right. Can you see my screen? I think you can. So
Sure.
okay. Give me a moment. Let me put my phone on airplane mode to avoid. All right. No, not that. When I was vibing to Zinoliski. Let's put this first, maybe this, and this. All right. So today we're going to talk about usability testing methods. We're going to talk about choosing. We're going to talk about choosing the right method and the popular methods and the best ones to use in different circumstances. So that's what we're going to talk about today: usability testing. I prepared like this is, you see, it's very short. We don't have like a lot of things here. We'll talk about choosing usability testing methods. We'll talk about the top 7 usability testing methods. These are the most frequently used methods, and then there'll be some kind of conclusion. But I will share with you as I go through the class. I'll share some samples of some kind of usability testing artifacts and materials that I've used in previous projects, and I think may be helpful to you guys. So before we go, this is me here, and this is a picture of when I was testing a project that I recently worked on. This was my subject that was testing it with me. But it was a school project, and this was just like some kind of test with it. All right, so let's go into it. So what is usability testing? It is a method. It is basically a method of testing the functionality of a website, an application, or other digital products by observing real users as they attempt to complete tasks on it, right? So it's basically what you've done. It's like it is a process or a method that you use to validate your designs. Use it to observe users, to have them go through what you've designed, which is like a way for you to observe and see if there were any, if your design helped them solve the challenges that you wanted to solve. So the goal of usability testing is to reveal areas of confusion and uncover opportunities to improve the overall user experience, right? So that's it. That's really what it is. It's not like a big deal. So from the name, usability testing, it's testing the usability of a product, testing, finding loopholes, um, areas of challenges for the users, like, and things like that. Now choosing usability testings. I'm sorry guys, choosing usability testing methods. So to begin, before we like begin user testing, there are a series of things that we need to do first. And the primary thing is to have an objective for what you want to test, why you want to do the test, because and that usually help you to determine what methods you would go for. So usually before you begin, it is recommended that you pick like a particular testing method, and you should have like a clear understanding of who your target audience are, and a clear understanding of the available resources. And when I say resources, I mean how much time do you have to do this test, and how much resources do you have, how much money, how much budget do you have for the resources, and what are the resources, what are the research objectives, right? And then this information will help you select the relevant testing method. These are the things that you need to make your decision for which of the testing methods you should go for. And they also help you influence how prioritize rather what you test and what you wouldn't test. So although I didn't put it in the next, I didn't put it on the slide. So, but the next step to do when you want to conduct a usability test is to first identify what you want to test, why you want to test it, and once you've done that, you need to, because you cannot. It makes sense to the idea is the benefit of simplifying or prioritizing what you want to test is that it would make it easy for you to laser focus your attention on on a few things which will not which will make it which will make the usability testing process not overwhelming for the users, right? Because it can be really tasking and overwhelming. So if there's a lot of them, users will just get overwhelmed, and if they're overwhelmed, you'll not be able to get their best experience or get them to give their best for usability testing. And again, depending on your budget and your resources, you may not be able to test everything in your app, right? But you can take like core features in your app that you've implemented to help you meet certain user needs. Those are how you prioritize what to test and what not to test. So testing things like the login and sign up shouldn't be like a priority for you, because unless you've done something very different that people are not used to in like the login and sign up, right? It wouldn't be as effective to want to test or create a usability test for your onboarding login sign up screen, because there's like already a mental model for people who there's an existing mental model for login and sign up. People already know how to use it, right? Unless you're again, you see why understanding your target audience and your objectives help you decide what to test and even the methods that you should use to test. Because if, for example, the people that I'm trying to my users that I'm trying to conduct usability testing with or for, they are, let's say my audience are, they are users of some tech tools before. Let's say they currently use, I'm testing for a fintech app, um, say Kuda Bank, right? And they are I'm testing for Kuda Bank, and the users that I'm trying to test for were previous, let's say they are current users of Kuda Bank, or let's say they are current users of Carbon, but I want to get them on Kuda Bank, right? I want to test their experience with the new Kuda Bank product that I'm bringing out, and the knowledge of who those users are, meaning they already use similar tools, they already have some kind of computer literacy, right? It would not make sense to test certain things, right? But you can, if the target audience, for example, are new to tech and all of those things, you see why all of those onboarding things can now make sense to test, because it will be like a new experience to them. But if it's like an existing experience that your audience will most likely have experienced in the past, there'll be no point to prioritize those areas of your app or features of your product. But usually it's usually more effective to test. I think I would have added another slide where that would say what to test, basically. But usually it's flexible depending on what your objectives are. That's why I didn't want to just define what you should test for, but I just want to give some kind of context as to how you decide what to test for. Focus on the features that you're implementing, the design solutions that you've created to kind of help you meet your user needs. So that the things that you prioritize your user testing for. Now, once you've known what you want to test, all of those things then help you decide what methods are the best to go for. But before we step now into the methods, another primary thing that is important is to come up with your user testing tasks. And now that becomes easier once you've decided what you want to test for. And it just simply is you creating some kind of test script. So depending if it's moderated or unmoderated, you still need to create some kind of test script that can guide what the user testing process is going to be like, right? But you can create this test script on like Google Docs. It doesn't have to be anything complex. Now that we're talking about it, I think I'll just share my screen to show you an example of what a usability testing script looks like. Yeah, so this is an example of what a usability testing script looks like. So you can do it on your Google Doc. I did this for a project I worked on, a fintech product I worked on called Chip. It's a fintech product that helps you automatically save money without it helps you save money with AI. So what this usability testing script is, this is an example of how it looks like. So it is you guiding how you want the session to go, if it's moderated or unmoderated. Or before I go deeper, let me explain briefly what unmoderated and moderated means. Even by the term moderated and unmoderated, it implies that moderated user testing sessions are the sessions where you are with the user and you guide and lead them all through the user testing process. And unmoderated user testing process is the one where you wouldn't need to be with the user. You just create the tasks and send it to them remotely and have them go through it. And for that one, you need to now take time to even plan out how the users are going to go through the different tasks that you're going to set step by step, right? I'm going to share some examples on how effective unmoderated user testings can be. So for moderated user testings, it is usually where you're present to moderate the session, guide how the session will go. That's why you see, for example, this says good morning or good afternoon. Thank you for agreeing to conduct. So this will be everything that you would say. This is guiding you this is helping you prepare anything that you say. And usually this is effective when you create this user testing script. It is effective for example, if you're user testing for a product, say for a client, right? You will need to create a user testing script for what you want to ask those users, and then send this to your client to confirm that you are not asking them anything, or you're not bringing in questions that may most likely share product secrets or anything out. So this is how you align with stakeholders what you need to put in your conversation during your user testing sessions, and what you need to take out, what you need to test, what kind of context you need to give the users, because you can't just tell them, oh, test this. There's some kind of, you have to give the users context that makes it easier for them to picture themselves in that situation and then try to use the test, right? So this test script is important because it helps you align with stakeholders and ensure that you guys are good with what you want to test, what you want to ask users, how much information of the company you want to share to give users context enough for them to go through your usability testing session, right? So I'll share this sample with you guys. I'll share this, you can reuse it in your projects. So this is, so again, because this is flexible, this is just you doing it generally. But if with this same content, I can lift this content and use this content for a moderated session. It will just be me changing this. It will be like, hello, thank you for agreeing to do. This will be the intro before the user starts that session, even if I'm not there with them, right? All right, so this just helps you open a conversation, and then you begin on the type of questions you want to ask, which is basically getting permission to either record the session. If they refuse that you record the session, you can now that's when you need to then start taking notes, right? So this is where you get their approval to go through and record the session. This conversation helps you guide how you go through that process, even when you now ask for permission and before you then start asking the question. Opening questions to start with to get them comfortable, or to get primary information about them, like the demographic, their age range, their employment titles, simple, soft questions that get them comfortable. Similar to interrogation, when they're interrogating somebody, I think the CIA does this effectively. This is just an analogy. I'm not sure what the CIA does, but with movies, I've seen interrogation go this way. So they ask you simple questions, that would definitely they ask you simple questions that they know is the truth. They ask you questions that they already know the answers to. What? Sorry, guys. So they ask you questions about something that they already know the answer to, so that when you respond to it, simple questions that they already know the answers to, when you respond to it, it makes them then know how your behavior is when you're saying the right thing or when you're answering the correct question. When you're giving the correct answer. For example, they ask you, "Oh, hi Parklands, do you live at so and so street in this?" This is an interrogation, and you now say, "Oh yes, I do." Do you drive a black Tesla? They say, "Oh yes, I do." They're seeing how comfortable you are responding to questions that they already know the answers to. So it helps them, that opening question help them get you to be comfortable and help them to get a sense of how it feels when you're being truthful about something. So when they start asking you difficult question, they can now um detect or trace back to see if you're just saying bullshit or if you're being honest, right? So there's some kind of psychological effect to it. So user experience and especially user testing is a bit more psychological than design. So that kind of ideology or analogy is somehow relevant with how we conduct user testing sessions, right? So these opening questions are just to get them comfortable, get them to respond to things that are comfortable with before you then get them to start doing the tasks. Now, for the task is usually based on your objectives, right? And what you want to test. For example, for this task, I created like 5 tasks, I mean 6 tasks, and for one of them, I told one of the tasks was to review your account balance. I wanted to test. I wish I can show you what it looked like, an example of the test. So the let me try and explain. You know how on the fintech app, right? When you open it, your balance is reviewed, and there's this eye icon where you can click to unhide your balance and hide it, right? So I introduced that icon, and but I wanted to test if they can identify that the eye icon is to hide or not. So I was testing to see if I should just use the icon there, or I should use text if this kind of users may not be able to identify that, oh, eye icon means to hide your balance or to reveal it. So when I tell them to review your account balance, some people were not able to because they didn't understand what the eye icon was and that they could click on it to review. But some other people were able to do it. But that was what I was trying to test for, and that's why I added it here. But you see this, I gave some descriptions, I gave some kind of context. With every task that I ask, I always give some kind of context. But the idea of this context is there's a positive and a negative part of it. A negative part of it is that it could mislead your audience. It may lead you to giving too much information that may now influence what they do, right? But the advantage of it is that you're going to be able to help if you do it right, right? The benefit of the advantages of doing it right is that it would help the user to see themselves in that situation, because by default they are not there, they're playing the parts, right? They're not in the situation yet where they need to review their balance. So a good context or follow-up of this description would be, imagine you open your app and you want to check how much you have, but then you can't find your balance. Go through the app and try to review your balance, right? So I'm giving them context about, I'm trying to create an environment that gives them context about what is going on before the task is occurring, so that they have an understanding, so they don't get confused. Because in reality, if I don't test that way, the reality is that when I actually have the product, it is that context at which it is in that context that the users would then need to carry out this particular task, right? So it makes sense to try to give context, but be careful about don't so long the context are not leading them by saying, oh, click to find your button or click to review your icon, click to review your balance, right? Clicking is leading them on that they have to click somewhere, so you're not looking for where to click. But if you're saying it without giving any giving away any instruction for how they should do it, then you're safer. Basically, so this user testing script is just to help you shape out how you want to ask your questions. So you list out the task you want to ask them, and then you can have follow-up questions based on what they have, based on the responses they give. You have follow-up questions to get them to share the experience with how it was done, right? But importantly, another important what I say artifact or material that you need when you're conducting a user testing session is a usability testing data sheet. And I have an example here, but it's basically for you to determine your benchmark for impact. It is how you map out the this is how this is like a note that you can use to, for you see I put down the questions that I asked on the right, and then I can use basic small metrics to track the success of that particular testing sessions. Again, this thing can change based on what you want to find out from your user testing. In this case, and I have a template of this that I can share, which I've already created it here. I'll share with you guys. You guys can use it for your user testing. So to reiterate, if you go, you see that there's a session here, there's a space here for you to add a task that the users are going to take, and then you can measure, let's say, what success means for you. If the user was able to complete the task, that's you put. If the user was not able to complete the task, you just note down 0 here. The user is able to complete the task with difficulty or help, right? You put number 2, and then if it was easy for them to complete, you put number 3. All of this helps you map. This helps you in your reports when you're now saying, oh, I user tested with like 7 users, and 20% of the users was able to easily complete task 1, right? But you're able to quantify that 70% because you are noting down when you're observing the user and the challenges they go through. You're able to then note down 2, 1, 0 briefly, so that you're not. And if you need to add any more context, you can still add it here. But primarily, you add like 2, 1, something like that. And then while you're user testing per task, this sheet is very effective for moderated session because you'll be able to be there to observe the user as they do it. And if you're there, you can, for example, note how much time it took them to create this task, and then in this case it was 2 seconds, and in this case it was 5 seconds. And all of this kind of data would help you then know that it will help you in your reports when you're now saying, oh, 70% of the users spent an average time of 3 seconds to complete this task, right? Now, when you now go back and improve that particular UX process, you can now, and you now do the user testing again, you can now have data to put side by side. Now say, oh, before we had 70% of the users took longer time to complete this task, but now it has reduced from 70% to just 20%, which means your design improvement has had impact. I don't know if this makes sense, but this sheet will help you just note down simple metrics that can help you track the success of your tasks that you've set. So don't worry, I'm going to share this sample with you, and then you can use it in your sessions. Now, I'll spend the rest of the hours talking to you about the types of usability test methods and sorry guys, and these are the top 7. I think there's more, but you can do your research right outside this one. So there are top 7. On the top 7 is Gorilla testing, lab usability testing, unmoderated remote usability testing, contextual inquiry, phone interview. Sorry, I've got contextual inquiry twice. Contextual inquiry, phone interview, card sorting, and session recording, right? So I'll run you through on the next slide. For gorilla testing is one of the simplest form of usability testing, but basically what it means is that you go into public places such as like coffee shops, and to ask people to you ask people about your prototype, right? It's a rapid, fast way to get feedback or insight about what you're prototyping and get some kind of insight to help you understand what people are doing, to help you understand what people think about your prototype, right? So the test participants that you'll find will be chosen randomly, and they are asked to perform like quick usability tests, but often in exchange for like small gifts such as like free coffee or a or a souvenir, a pen or something like that. It is low cost and it's relatively simple testing that enables real user feedback, right? But also, when is it used? It is one of the simplest form, and but it is good for collecting personal opinions and emotional impressions about ideas and concept. But it is important to understand that this type of testing might not represent your product target audience because it is random. You choose those people by random. You'll be walking around, and then you can just meet random people that are willing to talk to you and get them to test or give feedback about your prototypes. So they may not be properly represented of your user audience that you're building a product about, right? So which is why it's not like it might not be the right um testing method for a niche product that has like a niche user. Like for example, if your user is for like teenagers, if you go into the market and get older people or parents to test the product, you may not get enough, you may not get tailored data that would help you inform your decisions for your target audience. But it's good for, like, for example, Facebook, um, that the users are a lot, like literally everybody, things like that. But it's like a low cost, very rapid, fast way of user testing to help you just get as much data as you can and the fastest possible way that you can. um, Lab usability testing. This is a moderated session, but as the name suggests, it's like a lab usability testing is run in a special environment. It is supervised by a moderator. It is a moderated session. These sessions are more comfortable, but this kind of session can be expensive, unless you have the budget for it. It may be expensive to have this kind of session because only like big companies are able to, mostly big companies and agencies are able to have these kind of sessions. But a moderated professional who is looking to obtain feedback from live users use this method um, to sit down with users, observe their behavior, observe. So you will not even be asking the users question. You'll be able to look at them and observe their emotions, their reactions, their motivations, their frustrations. You can see it in their face. You can see it with the way they feel, right? It is excellent for getting like in-depth qualitative feedback of the users, right? Because you can ask them questions as they're testing it, and you can follow up with you can follow up with this follow-up question like, oh, after each task you can ask them, oh, how did it feel, how was it, what was the challenge with you, like small questions that you may not have the opportunity to ask in a gorilla testing because you're just meeting people randomly, but or in I mean in an unmoderated session that people are just doing remotely in their own time. This is usually effective because for the users that come literally would have scheduled their time to be there, so they'll not be in any haste, they'll be comfortable and would have planned to come and give feedback for whatever it is that you'll be getting them to give feedback on. So when to use this? This works best when you need to have in-depth information on how users interact with your product, right? And what issues they face. We help to investigate the reason behind user behavior. It is not just seeing the loopholes in the product, but you'll be able to see them and ask them and even observe the reasons to why they behave the way they behave, or what are the things that, let's say, what part of the app gets them excited and what part of the app gets them, what part of the user experience in the product gets them to feel so overwhelmed and exhausted and frustrated, right? Now the fact that this testing is it is moderated, right? It helps you to collect a lot of qualitative information. Qualitative information, if you go back to when we're discussing about qualitative research and quantitative research, you see that qualitative research is more about understanding the user behavior, their motivations, their frustrations, right? Their goals, understanding in-depth information about the user, their behaviors, how they think, why they think the way they think, right? Why they behave a certain way. What is their story about? What are their activities? What are their challenges? What are the things they face? Right? This kind of research this kind of usability testing method helps you get that granular information about your users. But a problem with this user testing is the number of participants in a single round. Usually you have like 5 to 10 participants per research round in a controlled environment. So it's important to ensure that all the test participants are reflective of your actual customer base. Then for unmoderated remote usability testing, that's number 3. This is another usability testing method. And for this method, it occurs remotely without a moderator. You're not there. So which is why for this kind of method, you have to prepare whatever you're giving the users to do in a very clearly defined way, giving the instructions in a very clear way so that they can do it without having any issues, because you will not be there to answer any frustrations or questions that they have in that session. I'll see, I think, but one of the amazing tools for this is maze.design. Get away. I don't know if you know about Maze, but this is an amazing tool and it's free. They have a free version. I think I have an account somewhere. Let's see if I can quickly this is Maze. I'll share the link with you guys. You guys can check it out. It is effective for like unmoderated sessions, because you can plan out your moderated sessions, your unmoderated sessions like missions, right? Let me see what I can share. Where's my file? I'm not sure this is the account where I have them in, but let's use this as an example. Yes, this is an example of how it looks. Let's say you would create this if it's unmoderated. This tool makes it easier for you to you can connect this with your Figma, and you can just send this link to your users, and this will be an image of your product or something you want them to see. But then you can, when your user lands here, that introductory message that we have in this our user testing script that says, oh, good morning, blah 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 blah. In this case, will not be hello or amazing to meet you. You've been invited to this. Da, 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 da. It's where you can share context about what the task is about and what the testing is about, and how it will be helpful for you if they take out time to do this. This is where you encourage the user and give them some kind of context about the testing. Right, this is totally unmoderated, so you would not be there when the users are there, which is why it's effective to make sure you make all the things you want them to do very clear and easy for them to figure out, right? And then, but for Maze, I think you guys should check it out. It's an amazing tool for user testing. It helps you create the task you want the users to test as missions. So the users will see them as missions. You'll be able to give, before the task, you'll be able to, for the task you want them to solve, you can give picture ideas or intro about what the task is about. So you see, focus on the image. That is the task, right? And then the context following this task is the context follow, which is like a description of what the task is this. But the idea of this is that it will give the user some kind of context that you will not be there to explain to them. So this, you see, this says, oh, focus on the image, and then the description is saying you will view an image for a limited time. Try to understand what the image is about and remember as much information as you can. Now, in your test script, this will be what will be under here, right? This will be what will be under here as description or context, because especially when you're the benefit of this is you can use it for unmoderated sessions or even moderated session. In an unmoderated session, all you need to do is just talk about it. You just say this out. But since you're not there for unmoderated session, you can just type it this way. So before, as a user, I read this, oh, this is the task. Focus on the image, you okay, start. Now I'm focusing on this, and I only have 10 seconds to focus on this. And then the question, what was the action? What action was the web asking you to take? And then you give your answer. I mean, I don't know, because I didn't even look at it, right? So let's say NA, and then it takes you, ask another question. What else do you remember? These questions are like follow-up questions, and then you see usability testings are can be in different ways based on what you want to achieve, right? These are like follow-up questions based on the task that you want to achieve. Now, these questions can come per each task, and then you can have another task. Let's say this is task one, and there is a follow-up question from it, right? You can have a task two, and then a follow-up question after the task two, and like that, like that, like that, like that. But this tool called Maze is excellent for unmoderated sessions. You can try, you can research other tools, but I've used Maze before, and I can tell that's amazing. All right, back to this. So for unmoderated remote usability testing, um, it offers quick, robust, and inexpensive user testing results to be used for further analysis. And then the test participants are asked to complete like tasks in their own environment, using their own device and without a moderator present, which leads to the product being used naturally, right? There's no fear of if I'm doing it wrong or if I'm doing it, if am I doing it the right way? Am I doing it the way you want me to do it? Which is why it's important to give some kind of context, telling them there's no wrong or right answer, just do what comes naturally to you, blah blah blah, right? But the cost for this is lower, but which is why yes, when I want an example of how it is lower is they're free. All these apps have like free versions, so you don't have to pay to get to use them, but you have like limited ways that you can use them if you're not going to pay. I'm trying to show an example of what a report looks like when you've done something. You'll be able to see the report. Why can't I wish I can log into my actual account, my main account, not this one. This is not the one. Let's see. Let's see. Excellent. So where are my tasks? This is weird. This is strange. All right, for the sake of this, I'll just leave this. All right. So yes, that's an example of a moderated session. But the good thing is, when you create like a Google Forms and people fill it, you get some kind of analytics at the back. Yes, Maze, this tool gives you that analytics as well. Let's see if I can Maze the design analytics sample. Boom, boom, boom. See if I can show it to you because it looks amazing. Yeah, it will be something like this, right? It will give you some kind of report that tells you the amount of time people spent using creating a particular it will give you the amount of time users took to complete a particular task and those small information, those granular informations that we have here. It will give you the time it took to complete, if it was challenging, the amount of errors, all those kind of things. It will give it to you. So it's one tool I recommend that you try for your personal projects or even recommend for like actual projects. And now, when to use this session, a moderated remote usability testing works best when you need to obtain a large sample to prove critical findings from your initial moderated research. In other words, you have a particular hypothesis that you want to validate on a large segment of users, right? A moderated remote testing will help you test particular questions and observe user behavior patterns, right? Um, but this kind of session doesn't go deep into a test participant's reasoning. That's why it's not recommended to use unmoderated sessions as a first usability testing method, right? So it is not recommended to use this as the first base of usability testing because it doesn't allow you get enough for qualitative feedback of the users, right? But you can use this right after you can be, and but this is effective for when you need to get a larger you need to get a larger you need to get feedback from a lot of people and not just one. But you cannot, it's impossible for you to interview, like, to use a test with, like, say 100 people or 50 people, because you may not have the time. It will not be cost effective to sit down with 100 people to test. But you can select, let's say, 5 or 7 of those people and have a moderated session with them, and then create an unmoderated version of your user testing with, like, maze, and send that link to all of the user testers, including the ones that you had moderated tests with, and you can now get feedback and then compare the data that you get from both of them, right? The advantage of moderated session is that it gives you insight about the reasoning of the users, not just the challenges they face, but why they were able to face it, because you're able to sit with them and ask them and observe, right? Now, for contextual inquiry. Contextual inquiry is less a usability testing method and more like an interview, right? It's an observation method that helps a product team obtain information about the user's experience from the real users. To test participants in this case, I first ask a set of questions about their experience with a product, and then observed and questioned while they work in their own environment. So it is you asking questions about how users have experienced something. It is more like an inquiry. It is more like an interview, asking, like, similar to the post questions that we have after a session, asking them, oh, how was it? How does it feel? Talk to me about when you use this product and you try to click on this. What is your experience? How does it make you feel? What is this? What is that? Right? So, but when to use this method, this technique is useful for getting rich information about users, their workspace, their personal preference, and their habits. And getting all this information at the beginning of the design collaboration process will help the product team design a well-tailored experience. But this method also works for shipped products. It works for products that are already live. Let's say the products are already live and users have tested them. You can now follow up with this contextual inquiry to get an understanding about what the users would have preferred, what their habits are like, what is their workspace, where they use this thing, where they use this tool, how is it like, what is the environment in which they use all of those things, right? And it is easier to prioritize usability issues when you see them from the first-hand experience. Similar, let's say you've shipped a product and after the users have used it for like 6 months, you go back and follow up with them and get insight about how they've been using it. So contextual inquiry is also good when you want to test a user's satisfaction with a product. So it's almost like customer care, customer feedback. It's more like an interview, feedback session or feedback loop, right? So research. This right here is one thing to note, that as a researcher, you should never provide your own opinion during test sessions. Just keep your opinions to yourself, because you may influence them. If you ask them something, do not try to bring your own opinion or give your own examples just to get them to speak about something, because it would influence their decisions or what they say. So please keep your opinions to yourself, no matter how much you want to connect with their own experience, right? The goal is to watch how they interact with the product and not participate in them yourself. Don't participate in the interaction. Sometimes some users may want to ask you, "Oh, do you mean I should click here, or I can click here, right?" Be like, instead of you saying yes, yes, you just be like, um, whatever you do is fine. There's no wrong or right answer. Anywhere you click is fine. If you don't click, is fine. Whatever you do, don't even say click. Whatever you do is fine. Make them feel, keep reassuring them that there's no wrong or right answer. Whatever they do is totally fine. That you need them to just do whatever comes naturally or feel naturally to them. When they ask for your opinions, don't give them. Keep the opinions to yourself. Because the idea is to observe what comes to them naturally and what they decide to do when they feel like it is up to them. All right. It's also important to take notes during the observation, because having notes after every observation session will help you write down a detailed report. So see this contextual inquiry like an observation user testing method. So it is you observing the users as they use the tool while you ask them certain questions about their personal experience, their personal preference, and their habits. Hope this makes sense. Now the next is phone interview. This one is very simple. It is a remote usability testing where, as a moderator, you verbally instruct participants to complete tasks on their device, and feedback is collected automatically, right? Um, the user interaction is recorded automatically. So it is you just guiding the user on the phone on how to do something so that you can see, get feedback on what they do. But when to use this, phone interviews are an excellent way to collect feedback from test participants scattered around different parts of the globe. It is effective because you can, it helps you get, it's like a feedback loop similar to contextual inquiry, but it's over the phone. Card sorting. Card sorting is an excellent method for prioritizing content and features in user interface. I'll share an example of what card sorting looks like. So the technique is relatively simple. All you need to do is place concepts and features on cards and allow test participants to manipulate the cards into groups and categories. As soon as a test participant sorts the card, a moderator should ask them to explain the logic and try to understand why they chose to sort the card in a certain way or in the way that they've done it. This is an example of what card sorting looks like. So it's usually recommended to even do it on post-it notes. Let's see if I've got an example of post-it notes. I mean like sticky notes. Is effective because you need to just pull and pull and resort anywhere you want to go. So it is basically when to use this, it is it's great when you want to optimize your product information architecture prior to building low fidelity mockups or using wireframe tools. So by getting feedback on your navigation structure, it's good for like information architecture. Like imagine you're building an e-commerce site and you want to know the best way to sort out your mega menu. And this is very good example for it. So an example, let's go to an e-commerce site. ASOS is my favorite shopping site. So for by default, let's say they have men and women, but mega menu is, sorry about this. Mega menu is, I had as an example, like if you're looking to figure out the best way to sort your information, like information architecture, this is card sorting is usually effective for this because you can write down the names of all of these categories. You see that we have two primary categories, men and women, and under men we have this primary category: clothing, this, and this. And then inside clothing, we have t-shirts, this, and this. In shoes, we have this, all of the way, right? So card sorting help you decide how the structure should be, which should go inside, which should come above, which should cover up of everything, or if you should just have everything as once, things like that. Another example would be like, let's say an e-commerce Jumia. Come on, man. Jumia has just been insane. Let's say Amazon. Yeah, so Amazon, for example, you see we have all these links. This is an example of mega menu. And you can do a search on Google for what mega menu looks like. It's very popular with WordPress. But yeah, these are examples of it. You guys can search again for what it is. Yes, that's it. So card sorting is very effective for things like that. Also, card sorting will help you form a hypothesis on how to organize your content and features. It is not just getting the users to reorganize the contents the way they want to, but it's also getting them, when they've organized it in a certain way, you need to now follow up with them to understand why they organized it that way. What was their reasoning behind it? Do they find it more easy to track these things by organizing it in a particular way? Did some words seem simpler for them and that's why they grouped them in a particular way? That's the insight you want to find, basically. But it helps you. It's always important to validate like this hypothesis with real users. Sometimes changes that are supposed to improve the navigation experience lead to completely different outcomes. This is how you find out. For this particular method, will be excellent when you're trying to improve how users navigate through a particular product. You use this to figure out the best ways, which of these ways would users find more appealing to go through process 1 to process 2. Hope that makes sense. And the final session is session recording. So session recording is a method of recording the actions that real users take while they interact with a site. And session recording data helps to understand what content or features are the most interesting for users to take. And usually this is usually done with the use of like heat maps, and as well as what interaction problems users face while they interact with your product. Hope that makes sense. Right. So, but this is an example to make this clearer is Hotjar. It uses heat map like when users click. What tool is effective for this? Yeah, when user click even on Maze will show you the hot map for where users wanted to click and where they were clicking as well. It helps. An example is Hotjar and even Maze, right? It helps you. You just give users. This can be used literally on your live website. Say you've built a product and it's live, for example, Amazon, and they integrate Hotjar into it. Hotjar would help them take information in, for example, let's say I'm trying to click on this and I'm clicking it, and it's not going anywhere, nothing is happening. The let's say, for example, I have a call to action. Let's say pop up to buy something. Let's see microwave. Let me give this as a better example. Yes, now I'm in this page. There are several call to actions. Let's say I'm trying to click on this call to action, and when I click here, somehow I'm not able to let's say every time user comes to this page, they drop, but they always click somewhere in this area and then they drop. They keep dropping. But Hotjar will help you note that, oh, the user keeps clicking here, but somehow they cannot seem to go past the page by clicking here. And then this will then help you trace to now come to this page and observe and say, okay, why do users keep clicking here and not able to go through? And you can maybe now, let's say there was a bug with something blocking these buttons and making the buttons not function, but when users click on it, nothing happens, right? So that's an example of how heat map can be used to help you track user interaction and what they were trying to do and what didn't work out and what worked, right? Also, Google Analytics is also one effective way to track not just users traffic, but to track out at what point user come into your website or your product, and at what point do they leave, do they drop out. That helps you understand. Let's say they were trying to complete a particular thing and they drop out in one place. That drop make you now figure out how to focus your attention to find out why did they drop. They're always dropping here. Why do they keep dropping? Why did they not finish their sale, their purchase, that things like that? This a very good example is with e-commerce. Let's say I'm trying to shop, but I keep dropping. I don't complete. I add to my cart, but I don't check out. Right? Tools like this would help you understand what is making it difficult for the users to check out. Why do they always drop when they get to the checkout page? Why don't they just pay and go, right? To conduct this session, to conduct this as a recording session, you would need to use like special tools like Hotjar. This is Hotjar. Hotjar. There's a free version, I think. Heat maps, yeah, and recordings. It would show you all of these things, so you guys can check it out. So I had it perfect. This is a good example. Can I pause this video? Open video in a new tab. Excellent. So you see these tops here. All of these are hot maps. These are heat maps of how much users click this. You see the ones that are faint are the ones that users didn't click the most. This can even help you track. Let's say every user that comes to this our homepage, they visit the about page and the pricing page more than every other page on the site. And somehow, for some weird reason, user keep clicking this. What is here? Why do the users keep clicking here? Why do a lot of users keep clicking this way? And you can see this can even help you test to see if users are clicking this link. This is a link to see if users can identify that this is a link and they click on it, right? And you see that the underline and the fact that there's some kind of colored contrast on this would help you know if users clicked on it. So you see this is an example of heat map. This can help you. This place that's very red means that it was clicked a lot, and this part again that's very red, very red, very red. See, there's some minor clicks, but this is an example of how Hotjar can help you find out what is going on, what the users are actually doing, and things like that. Another one is recordings. Let's see if there's a video for it. Is there? Excellent. Yeah, so Hotjar will literally track like let's open this guy on a new tab as well. Oh no, we didn't open. Show controls. Yeah, so this is an actual user using the app, right? Hotjar can help you record the user's interaction. You'll be able to see how users are using your live product, see what they're clicking, how they're making their decisions, how they're going left and right. This is excellent for when your product is already live. But when it's in like Figma prototype state, it's not very effective. You can use Maze for that. But Hotjar, you see, this is a recording of, let's take this away. These are recordings of user actions. You see how the users are going through. See how my mouse is moving, the decision to move left and right, how I'm taking it. This helps you. I don't want to over explain it, but you guys can check out Hotjar. Yep. So that brings it to the end of the top user testing sessions. Don't worry, I'm going to share this deck with you. You can go through it again. So to iterate, we have Gorilla testing, which is one of the fastest way to go through the testing, but it is not very effective if you have a niche target audience. It is very fast because you just give people, let's say, gifts, souvenir, and convince them to just quickly test your prototype. Lab usability testing is a moderated session. It's usually more expensive, but it is one of the best ways to get qualitative feedback about why users do something. Observe the users because you'll be in a comfortable, controlled environment to do that. A moderated remote usability testing for when you need to do usability testing for a lot of people and you can't reach them, but it's usually recommended to not do this first, but do this after you've already done a moderated session. And you can do this with tools like maze.design. And contextual inquiry is more like an observation inquiry session for you to just get some kind of insight about how users use the product, what they find challenging, and things like that. Phone interview is similar to contextual inquiry, but is you just giving instructions over the phone for directing users for how they should do certain things, and then automatically getting the result of it. And then card sorting helps you get insight about how users would prefer. It's very effective for when you're doing like your information architecture, navigations, and things like that for like a mobile app or even a web app, and helping you. It's just you laying down all the names of all the different navigation paths you want to go through, and have different users sort them based on what they think is the best for them. And then you find out what the reasonings are behind the way they chose to sort those cards. And finally, session recording is like is the tools you can use for it like Hotjar. It helps you track the heat map of the users of your live product. You can just see how the users are using it, how they make their decisions to go left and right, up and down. Literally, it's very effective for when your product is already live. That's when this session recording is more effective. This can be done. Card sorting can be used when you are starting your product, when you're planning your product, and when you're in the product planning. Let's say a website you're planning for how you want information to go. Gorilla testing is for a lot when you want to get like general feedback on something. This is the best for moderated session. Now, even though this says lab testing, you don't necessarily have to have a lab, right? You can still do this moderated session without having a lab. You can, so if you can find a confined space, a space that will be comfortable for you to have that session. A moderated session, remote, contextual inquiry, observation. This brings us to the end of the top usability testing methods. But for conclusion, I gave some kind of explanation between the difference between A/B testing and usability testing. I figured you guys may have this kind of question. But briefly, A/B testing is when you need to test between two things. That's why it's A/B. There has to be one or the other. It's very effective when you're trying to quickly prototype or validate your idea. Let's say I want to, usually having multiple ways to do one thing and choosing the best option. Let's say, for example, I want to find out which is the best way to present a particular information. Should I present it as cards or should I present it as a list? and then I put both of them together and get users to pick which is the best way, which one they'll prefer, and then I get like a percentage of how many people chose this and how many people chose this. A/B testing is just testing between two things to solve one problem, basically, simple as it is. But you can go on Google and search for more A/B testing examples. A/B testing examples. Click on images and you see side by side different types. But even from this description, you see that this is the same thing. So this feels like an ID card, but you see that the menu icon is to the left, and on this one it's in the center. So it's basically finding out which are users more comfortable with the menu icon in the center or on the left. And from your A/B testing, you can find out which is more effective. Is it that yes or no, this and that, right? That's it. And that brings us to the end. Thank you guys for being patient this long. Host, please open the floor for anyone who wants to ask questions. I'm happy to respond to them. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Destiny. If you guys have questions, you can. Oh, let me check the chat. Oh, yes. If you have any questions, you can ask them so I can address it. But if there's none, I hope you guys found this helpful. I'm going to share the resources that I said I will share, which is the template and this deck. Yes, so if there's any other question, you can send them on Slack and I'll try to respond to them. All right, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know today's Sunday and you guys are supposed to be resting. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.